Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, we meet again to start off, inshallah. Today we start off Surah Yunus. Let's start off with our intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, and His reward, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's continue on with our Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم نور بالقرآن بصري واشرح به صدري وأطلق به لساني واستعمل به بدني وقوي به جناني وأسرع به فهمي بحولك وقوتك فإنه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بك يا أرحم الراحمين والصلاة على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بفضل سبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين آمين يا الله يا رب العالمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Alhamdulillah, we are on to Surah Yunus. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is the 51st Surah revealed in Mecca and it has 109 verses. Right, altogether, 86 surahs are revealed in Mecca. So this is quite a lot of surahs already, 50 surahs. It's about 11th year of Rasulullah's mission around that time. It is called Yunus, not because it is a topic of the chapter, but merely as a symbol indicating the chapter in which Yunus has been mentioned. So that is, you won't find much of Nabi Yunus in this surah, little bit of Nabi Yunus. The contents of the surah indicate that it was revealed at a stage when the opponents had become so aggressive and violent that they did not even want to tolerate a Muslim presence in Mecca. So this is what was happening. This is a time where it's already, as mentioned, 11 years, right, of Rasulullah's mission, and they see that the Muslims are not giving in. Although the number of people in Mecca becoming Muslims has sort of stabilized, not many new converts are appearing among the people of Mecca, but because Mecca is a center of pilgrimage, many Arabs, some of the Arabs that came for the pilgrimage actually converted. So that was a rather a concern for the Kafir Quraysh, because the religion of Islam is brought out to other parts of the Arabian Peninsula, and especially so to Medina, and they were very, very worried about that. So they become very, very aggressive, punishing and torturing Muslims and finding ways and means. And this is around the time, of course, in the 13th year, then they decided to kill Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thus, they needed to be warned about their impending destruction in this world and their punishment in the hereafter, which they were going to encounter without any doubt if they continued their opposition to the mission of Rasulullah SAW and their aggression against the Muslims. So this is about warning them again, reminding them again that life is not just in this world. You will have to meet Allah in the next world. If you continue your aggression against the Muslims and torturing the Muslims, then you would be prepared. You should be prepared for terrible time in the next world. However, the surah does not allude in any way to the hijrah, indicating that it was revealed about 4 years before hijrah to Yathrib. Well, this is various calculations now. 4 years, that will be about 9 or 10 years. But this surah is after Surah Isra, so it should be about around there, 10, 11 years. All right, the matters addressed in the surah include invitation to the opponents to accept the truth of Islam. You can see Rasulullah, the Quran does not stop inviting people to accept the truth of Islam. Comments on their objections and doubts, right? That means analyzing their objections and their doubts. How is there any basis for it or not? Admonitions for their benefit and warnings about the consequence of their current behavior. That means they're advised, counseled, so that they benefit from the counsel, and at the same time they are warned about their behavior against the Muslims. The highlight of the surah is the good news to the sincere Muslims about their high status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, so that's a little bit of an introduction to the various parts of the surah. Now we continue on to the benefits of the surah. It is narrated from Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq radiallahu anhu that if a person recites the surah once in 2 or 3 months, he will not be placed alongside the ignorant ones and will be among the muqarrabin on the day of resurrection, on the day of reckoning. Right? We want to be muqarrabin, the one close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we should be reciting this Quran, this surah. Actually, if you decide to recite the Quran like to complete the Quran once in 2 months, which means a day is half a juz, and if you're fluent in your Quran, you should try to aim for that, a day half a juz, which will take you about maybe 25 minutes, 20 minutes. So if you do 5 minutes after every salat, right, you would be able to do the Quran once in 2 months, which means you will be reading the surah once in 2 months. It is also narrated that if a person recites Surah Yunus, he will get the reward equal to the number of people who were present in the community of Prophet Yunus alayhi salam. That was about 10,000 people, I think, around there. Inshallah, we'll get into that, to that number, the real number. Anyway, there's a lot of people, you get rewards of lots of people. All right, let's continue. Let's start off. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We've got one word here, qadama. Qadama, standing, Qadim is can be old, right, and can be all sustaining, right. We'll look at the other meanings. We'll look at the meanings later on. All right, let's see. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alif lam ra. All right, we start off with huruf muqatta'at. All right, alif lam ra. We cannot say ala ra. It's alif. It's letters. One by one, that's why it's called muqatta'at, cut off letters. They are letters and not, readings with harakat. So alif, lam, and ra. So alif, lam, ra. Tilka ayatul kitabil hakim. Tilka, these. All right, tilka, referring to ayat. And ayat here is plural, right? Ayat is plural. How do you know it's plural? Because alif ta. Right? If it's singular, it'll be going to be ayatu, ayatun. It's supposed to be ayatun because it's ism, but there is no tanwin there because it is off, right? Ayas off, the wise book. Kitabul Hakim, kitab is book, Hakim is wise, the wise book. Ayas off. And I put an off there because that is what the word is all about. I mean, that is the structure of the verse here. All right, gonna put off there. Ayas off. It's an off structure. It's a mudaf ilayhi structure. We see that kitab is in its jar state. Right, both of them are jar because they are descriptive here. Right, descriptive phrase here, and this is no tanwin here because it is an off structure. Ayas of the wise book. Alif lam ra. Tilka ayatul kitabil hakim. Right, tilka is female for dhalika, but it is singular because ayat is considered, it has taken a singular entity, but of course we're going to translate it as this. Right, alif lam ra tilka ayatul kitabil hakim. All right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begin with 3 huruf muqatta'at, alif, lam, and ra. And we have heard about this huruf muqatta'at, and we have gone through the various reasons why Allah, the various proposals, they are not confirmed reasons, right? The ulama have come out with various reasons for having huruf muqatta'at. Right, tilka, these are the ayahs of the wise book. So the book is a wise book. All right, not the book full of wisdom, it's a wise book. So the surah starts off with alif, lam, ra. These are huruf muqatta'at, usually used when reference to the Quran is made. So most of the time, there are a few instances where the reference, the next verse does not refer to the Quran, but later on, still reference to the Quran is made. In continuation with Surah Isra, sent before this, the nature of the Quran is highlighted. So since the surah that was before Yunus was Surah Isra, that means that it was during the Mi'raj of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Mi'raj occurs after the boycott of on the Hashemites, and then the passing on of his beloved wife Khadijah radiallahu anha and his beloved uncle Abu Talib. Right, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gifted him with the Mi'raj, right, to console him, right, and to, of course, to prepare for the travel, for the migration to Medina. All right, so the nature of the Quran is highlighted here. The reference are made to the ayahs of the Quran, not at the Quran, the ayahs of the wise book. So it is referred to the ayahs of the wise book. That means the signs. Quran is described as a book full of wisdom. Again, right, as you can see, the Quran, it is not full of wisdom, but a wise book. So some translators has said that as if the Quran in itself has got wisdom in itself, as if the Quran is like a living creature having wisdom. Somehow, some people would feel the wisdom of the Quran when they are in some difficulties or whatever, right? When they open the Quran, somehow the wisdom of the Quran appears to direct them to the right way of approaching their situations. Even non-Muslims who have converts actually, who actually accidentally open the book of the Quran. Sometimes they find it on the bookshelves, and they just take it and bring it down and then just open. And somehow that verse that they come across, right, is a verse that actually struck them, and they actually converted because of the verse. Recently, I listened to a story of a young man in Australia who converted to Islam. And he was very fearful of telling his parents that he has become Muslim. And one day he came back and the mother told him, oh, I was cleaning the cupboard and the Quran fell. I saw a book fell and I opened it, was the Quran. He was a bit worried, his mother might be very upset with him for reading the Quran. But the mother says, the Quran, and when I opened the Quran, it came to the verse of Surah Maryam, and I was very fascinated by those verses concerning Maryam, mother of Isa alayhi salam, and I want to know more. So this is all Allah's guidance, and of course, Allah has informed us that the Quran itself is wise. Note, kitab is used instead of Quran, right? As a book is used here, right? So the kitab in itself, right? And the Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu refers to many instances in the Quran which mention that the Quran is a book, and that is why, although Rasulullah SAW did not instruct the Sahabas to book the Quran, Sayyidina Umar suggested that the booking of the Quran was made. That means it is compiled into a book, and he referred to the various verses of the Quran which refers to the Quran as a book. Now, Alif Lam Mim, Alif Lam Ra is not a separate ayat. That is up to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Sometimes in the Quran, the Alif Lam Mim is ayat number 1. But in this particular case, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has put that Alif Lam Ra together with the next verse. And these two verses, right, form the first verse. And so this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom in doing all this. These are all secrets which not many scholars have come up with the knowledge of it. There are those who have deep knowledge of such things, and somehow they are not mentioning it. All right. This is his word, and he has authority over it. So he decided to take it. You cannot describe or contain ayah into a logical construct or a grammatical or a linguistic construct, it says, right? You cannot describe or contain ayah into a logical construct or a grammatical or a linguistic construct. So this is the way things are being used, right? It is a surprise for some of the Arab linguists. The Arabs have very refined language. They have refined the language to until a very high level, where they have a beautiful grammatical usage, beautiful use of words and idioms and such things, right? And this construct is, we can't really describe the construct, right? Into a logical construct, a grammatical or linguistic construct. This is all tawqif. Allah decides on an ayah by itself. And when it decides an ayah by itself, then, and this is where our intellect is put in check. That means we do not understand why Allah puts this ayah in such a way. So there is a special reason for Allah doing this, and some people might have discovered it, and some people might be enlightened by it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best conditions of the verses that he has put forth. Whether you understand it or not, the book is full of wisdom. So whether you understand it or not, there is wisdom in it. So what is the most important here is that it is a wise book. There's lots of wisdom, right, with the book. So if you want wisdom, then you would want to embrace this book. This introductory verse contains a subtle answer to those foolish people who presume that the discourses which the messenger Rasulullah was presenting as the Quran were nothing more than elegant speeches, poetic, lofty thoughts, and some predictions like those of the soothsayers. So this in itself denounce all these ideas or these allegations against the Quran, right? To find ways and means to denounce it and not to accept it as the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't want it to be known as divine. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by introduction to the surah, with this particular verse, right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told them that all their nonsense, that whatever they think of it is not true, whereas this is a wise book. That are being warned that the Quran is not what they suppose it to be, but this is the book of wisdom. And again, we see the translation here, book of wisdom, whereas you can see the Arabic, it is a wise book, right? Somehow, right? And there's no off structure. It is a descriptive structure of the book, describing the book as wise. And that if they did not pay a due attention to it, they would deprive themselves of wisdom. And that's, of course, a fact, right? And from this book, you will learn a lot. You will be wise by learning this book. If you don't, then you have denied yourself of wisdom. Kana is a question, was, can it? Kana, is it, was it? Sorry. Linnasi, for mankind, ajaban, ajaib is something that is magical, right? Ajib, right? All these are words that shows a wonder. Ajaban, an awhayna, and is that awhayna from the word wahyu. Wahyu is to reveal, na is at the end. This is fi'il madi, right? We revealed, we caused to reveal. Akana, is it for mankind a wonder? Okay, was it? This is past tense. Was it? All right. Ila rajulin, ila is to, rajulin is it is a jar state, kasratain, because ila is huruf jar. Ila rajulin minhum, among them, and that anzirin nasa from the word nadara. Nadara is one, right? That anziri nasa, it warned men. All right, this is an it inside here, right? It warned men. Anziri nasa. All right, nas is man here. Nas is in its is the one that is being warned is the object. right? That it warned men. Anzirin nasa. All right. Wabashiri, and give good news. Wabashir, give good news. All right, this is instruction, give good news, and warn the previous one. Let's just look at the previous one a little bit there. That warn men. So this is another instruction, right? Warn is a fi'al amr here. Anzir, actually there's no kasra because fi'al doesn't have a kasra, but because of the smoothness in reciting, that the sukun actually is changed to a kasra. Anzir, warn men. An-nas, Wabashir, and give good news. Alladhina, those they believed, or those who believed. Alladhina amanu, right? Those who believed. This is plural with the waw alif there, or those they believed. You can say that also. Anna, that lahum, for them, qadama sidqin. Qadama sidqin. Sidqin is truthful, right? Truthful. Qadam is a position, right? A respectable position. Qadama, a position of respectability, actually, because it is an off structure. Qadama sidqin, because qadama has got no tanwin, and sidqin is in its jar state. Let's just a little bit change that, maybe, to make it an off structure, standing of truthfulness, of truthfulness. All right. Look at that translation later on. Inda Rabbihim, with their Rabb. Inda is with the presence of their Rabb. Rabbihim, Inda is sort of jar, so Rabbi and not Rabba or Rabbu, but Rabbi because Inda is sort of jar. Him is there. Qala, said al-kafiruna, the disbelievers, inna hadha la sahirum mubin. Inna, surely, hadha, this, la, definitely, sahir, magician, mubin, clear. Definitely a clear magician. You can see this is also descriptive, like sifah wal mawsuf, but this one is mudaf ilayh of structure. What? Is it a wonder to the people that we revealed to a man from among themselves, saying, warn the people and give good news to those who believe, that theirs is a footing of firmness with their Rabb. The unbelievers say, this is most surely a manifest enchanter, a magician, clear magician. Call him an enchanter because he's so charismatic that he enchants people with his words. So this is one way. The akana, was it that for mankind, right? Linasi, for mankind, ajaban, wonder, a wonder that an awhayna, that we revealed ila rajulim minhum, to a man among them. Continuing with the Quran and the Quraysh's amazement. So here Allah put forth their condition. Are you amazed? You don't think it is possible that a man, that Allah would actually reveal a message to a man among them? So is it that difficult for them to accept that a man from them could be given revelation? This is a rhetoric question which wonders at the attitude which considers the very concept of revelation strange. Right? They didn't accept the fact that Rasulullah was appointed after 10 years. They are still grappling with that, or still finding reasons not to believe in the messengership of Rasulullah. Every one of Allah's messengers was received with the same disbelieving question. So what's the question? How, why would Allah send a message? How can He send a message? Why not send an angel? The questions are all again and again. It's repetitive. Right? It's the same thing again and again. It shows that human beings just find ways and means to deny the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This question stems from the fact that people do not appreciate the value of humanity, which they themselves represent. So this is, according to this Mufassirin, that they don't realize that human being is honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, for us, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised Nabi Adam alayhi salam, has told Nabi Adam alayhi salam that he will send down guidance. So it is something which we are receiving. That is why when Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when they told him about the travel of Rasulullah assertion that he traveled from Makkah to Masjid al-Aqsa overnight and came back, right? And the others were just laughing at him and thinking he's talking nonsense. So Abu Bakr says, if I can believe that an angel came to him to send message, then I can believe anything about him. So that is the reality. Those who have believed, they believe everything about Rasulullah. Some those who doesn't want to have belief, right? They find it a wonder. How can a man receive message from God? Here Allah uses nas, not only the Quraysh, all mankind, right? Have this perception when they don't want to accept the divine message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It could also be plain denial in not wanting to accept the truth. So of course they are in denial, they don't want to accept the truth. So they they find out means and ways, right, to denounce the message of the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The truth goes against the desires of the nafs. They do not realize how Allah has honored man, and part of that honor is that man is well qualified to bear Allah's message, and that Allah chooses certain human beings with whom He has this special relationship. So that is the reality. Instead of being honored to have a prophet amongst them, right, they actually denounce and deny the prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they are in a bad state, definitely. Akana linnasi ajaban an awhayna ila rajulim minhum. Is it that, for mankind, it's a wonder that we would reveal to a man among them? The sentence is phrased in such a way to show utter amazement. So this is Arabic structure. We might not be able to feel it because our Arabic is not, we do learn a little bit of Arabic. We're not really proficient in the language and its rhetoric. So, but this is a question. Is it that difficult for you all to believe that Allah would send message to a man? Linnasi ajaban was placed at the beginning. Akana, right? Is it, right? For mankind, ajaban, a wonder, before the subject, that awhayna, right? That we reveal. So what is the word that they are wondering at? They are wondering as a fact that Allah revealed to mankind, to a man among them. So an awhayna ila rajulim minhum. This creates emphasis. So it emphasizes, right? The problem here is that these people are amazed. These people consider it, they are wondering, is it really true? They find it something magical, something out, just cannot be believed, right? That Allah would reveal to a man, awhayna and awhayna ila rajulim minhum. This is the reality of men, right? They just find faults. This is for men. Is it for mankind that they find it, amazing? They just want to deny. They won't accept the revelation because of the messenger, right? The messenger. Who is a messenger? He is just a man. Who is he? He is an orphan. Who was he? Right, he was not among the elites of the society. So it's not a very rich man anyway. They wonder, how does contact happen between a human being with his limited physical nature and God, who is totally unlike everything else and whose nature is unlike the nature of everything He has created? So how could there be a connection between man and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Such a question cannot be asked except by one who fully comprehends the nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself with all its aspects, and who also understands all the characteristics Allah has given to man. So there is a lot to know before there is acceptance. No one in his right mind, aware of the limitations of a reason, would make such a claim. That means if you know that your mind, the thinking has limitations in it, then you would not even say such a you would mention it, because for the fact that you know that you don't know much, right? That these are possibilities. It has happened. Look at what it is. Think about the real situation and come to a conclusion that definitely this revelation is from God. And you are not able to perceive it because of your limitations of your own reasoning. And therein nas, that warn men, the men. So man is supposed to be warned, right? The Quran, right? The Rajul, the man, all right, is warning men, right, by the revelation that was sent. Warning is highlighted first. The entire tone of the surah is that warning overshadows good news, right? Because they have been, as mentioned, the Quraysh has been very stubbornly, those who didn't want to accept, those who kept on finding faults with Rasulullah, those who kept on slandering Rasulullah and casting doubts on the message of Rasulullah, right? They are being warned here. That is, revelation is sent to warn people. This is the care, love, and concern of Allah. He communicated with men to warn them. So here we see the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? He warned people so that they will take the warning and not be plunged into danger. He does not want man to destroy himself. The messenger is not only to the Quraysh, but all of mankind. So we have here Anas, not only to the Quraysh. So this Quran is for all of mankind, for all ages. It is there to warn men of the realities of their lives. وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَنَّ لَهُمْ قَدَمَ صِدْقٍ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. Give good news to those who believe that for them, especially, lahum is brought forward to emphasize, for them is actually a standing of truth, right? A position of truth, right, with their Rabb. So this is a very different approach, as we can see after learning the Quran for some time. And this is, of course, when you look at the Quran itself being, this is the 51st, there's 11 years of the Quran coming down, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is amazing ways of bringing our attention to the greatness of the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَنَّ لَهُمْ. Anna is that, especially for them, is a standing of truth with their Rabb. All right, what does it mean of this qadama sidqin? We hardly see this phrase mudaf ilayhi in the Quran. The warning is addressed to all mankind because it should be conveyed to all people, who must be made aware of the consequences of their actions. Happy news, though, is given only to the believers. The happy news, to give the good news to the believers. Why? Because they believe and they acted on their belief. The believers receive the good, happy news of reassurance and of being on firm ground. Sidqin. Being on a sound footing means that they are sure of the steps, unhesitating, unshakable, even during the most worrying of times. All right, so that's what it is. Sound footing. So we know, alhamdulillah, as believers, inshallah, we are sure of our steps. We are sure, we are not hesitant in accepting the truth, in living the truth. We are not we are unshakable during the worst of times. We are firm, right, on our belief, firm footing. They are on a sound footing for their Rabb, in a presence where believers find reassurance and safety, while others worry as they contemplate their impending doom. So that is, we are sure we have this guidance, we follow this guidance, we hope for the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that will be placed in Jannah. We hope that we will not, we always pray and we believe in the promise of Allah that He would place us in Jannah by His mercy. أَنَّ لَهُمْ قَدَمَ صِدْقٍ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ, that for them especially is a footing of firm footing, some say, but footing of truth with their Rabb. They have precedence, qadam, of truthfulness. And this is what it says, a precedence of food. So the qadam is seen as a precedence. Right? It means prophets before you, right, have been truthfully bringing these revelations again and again and again and again. This connects what a person actually conceives in his mind or feels and what he expresses by word, deed, or attitude, complete sincerity. So he is continuously in a state of sincerity, complete sincerity, right? A person actually conceive in his mind, so he knows about it, he feels it, and he expresses his word by deed or attitude with complete sincerity. Anna lahum qadama sidqin inda rabbihim. Sahih International says that they will have a firm precedence of honor with their Lord. So you can see a difference in translation here. Right? Precedence of honor. So the sidqin is honor with their Rabb. That means for sure they will precede them, will be honor with their Rabb. They will be rewarded. Fiqh says that they have a sure footing with their Rabb. And Yusuf Ali says they have before their Rabb a lofty rank of truth. Right, lofty rank of truth. So you can see that quite a number of differences of opinion concerning qadama sidqin, but it is for sure for them something which is truthful, something which is firm. A qadam is a footing, right? Some put it as precedence because what is from the old age tradition. Ali bin Abi Talha reported that Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said about this ayat, eternal happiness has been returned for them. That's what it is. Al-Afi reported that Ibn Abbas said radiallahu anhu, it is the good reward for what they have done. Mujahid said, it is their goodness, their prayers, fasting, charity, and glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He then said, and Muhammad will intercede for them. So this is a special position that we are in by our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have definitely a standing of truth, right, or truthfulness in us, inshallah. قال الكافرون, said the disbelievers, إن هذا لساحر مبين. He says this is definitely a magician. Sahir, continuously putting in magic, right? And it's very clear. We can see it very clearly that he is a clear magician or a clear charmer. Although the question of revelation is so clear, the unbelievers receive it as though it is very strange. They describe him as an enchanter or a sorcerer because what he says is beyond the power of human beings. What he says is something out of the world, right? He's saying something which is crazy. So sometimes they call him mad because he's talking about the next world. He's talking about people being raised up after death. This is nonsense, right? So Sahir, that means they believe that he's got some magic where he can confound people, he can seduce people into becoming believers and follow his ways and really being very very attached to him and very obedient to him. So must be some kind of a magician. Yet they should acknowledge the fact of revelation on account of this, because sorcery is incapable of including statements about universal facts or of delivering a complete code of living, laws, and moral principles which make for a highly civilized society. Of course, if they actually ponder or they are sincere enough to consider the verses of the Quran, they would see that there's no way there's sorcery in it. It is definitely lots of knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And quite a number of them actually, we are aware that they actually knew, they believe in fact that the Quran is revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is divine in nature, but they just won't accept it for the fact that the one who received it was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They tended to confuse revelation with sorcery because in all pagan beliefs, sorcery was a part of religion. So that's one of the reasons also why they put sorcery in, because the pagan religions, they believe in magic. They do not have the clarity that Muslim possesses with regard to the nature of divine faith. So they're confused people, disturbed by their own emotions and also by their own desires and caprices, which they feel is being curtailed by the laws that are brought down by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And among them, of course, is their desire to cheat sometimes. Of course, they are given Surah Al-Mutaffifin, and also of their desire to be those rich ones especially, right? Why should we be with the poor ones? Arrogance runs deep in them. This realization saves Muslims from all the legends and superstitions of pagan beliefs. Realization that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent a message to people. The more you listen to him, the more obvious that it becomes that he is a magician. The fact that they call him a magician is in and itself a compliment, not an insult one alone. So this is how people see he can do magic, right? Something is amazing about him, that he can actually convince people with his words, right? So he is really, really somebody to look at. Magician means you have to take a leap of faith to believe. If it's a trick, if I can't explain it through common sense, it must be magic, right? Since you cannot explain it, then it must be magic. They acknowledge the supernatural power of the Quran, and they call it magic. These words are mystifying them to the point that they are calling them magic. They cannot have an explanation. The words of the Quran are just so profound, so special, so beautifully presented that they just call it magic. All right. Even in their rejection of faith, they are acknowledging that something unseen is at work, because magic is also belief in the unseen. This word is a defeat in itself. Also, he is indeed an obvious enchanter, sahir, right? Sahir is that he enchants people with his words. Thus, Muhammad sallallahu did not really receive any revelation from Allah, but merely deluded his followers by means of his spell-binding eloquence. They were with him for years. 40 years he didn't do it. Suddenly he started doing it. Well, that's why some people say, some people claim that the jinn has possessed him, because all of a sudden he becomes like that. They can't accept the fact that that revelation is from Allah subhanahu. All right, let's recite the first two verses. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alif Lam Ra. Tilka ayatul kitabil hakim. Akana linnasi ajaban an awhayna ila rajulin minhum an anzirin nasa. وبشر الذين آمنوا أن لهم قدم صدق عند ربهم قال الكافرون إن هذا لساهر مبين. All right, next set of words. Baida'u. Sorry. Ya bada'u. Bada'a is to begin. The ya is he, and this is fi'il mudari, rafa' state. Diya'an, this is ism definitely, but in nasab state, diya is to burning light. Burning light. Diya'an. As-sinin, years. Sana is one, sinin, many years. All right, those words again. Yabda'u, he initiates. Diya'an, burning light. As-sinin, years. Again, as-sinin is ism because of the al there. All right. Inna rabbakumullahu alladhi khalaqas samawati. Surely, in rabbakum. So inna is huruf nasab. You have rabba and not rabbi, not rabbu. Rabbakum, your Rabb is Allah. Allah is your Rabb. Inna rabbakumullahu alladhi, one, or the one. Khalaqas samawati. He created the skies. So there's so many skies. There's 7 skies here. Samawat is plural here for skies, right? This is the thing that is being created. So this is nasab. And samawat is the plural of sama is samawat, and it is the same structure for nasab and jar. But we know it's nasab because the thing that is created. While arda, and it confirms arda is in its nasab state. So it is not jar. While arda, and the earth, and the skies and the earth. He created the skies and the earth in 6 days. في ستة أيام, in 6 days. Sittah is 6. Ayam is the 6 ayam. Numbers are always they look like off structures. You can see this in off structure. Like 6 of days. It's not wrong in English, so see that. Thumma means after a lapse of time. Thumma stawa ala al-arsh, then he established on the arash. Right? Histawa, right? Plural, past tense. So past tense, sorry. Allah on arshi is the arash is the throne. Right? And this is jar state because Allah is full of jar. Inna rabbakumullahu alladhi khalaqa as-samawati wal arda fi sittati ayyamin thumma istawa ala al-arsh. Yudabbirul amra. Yudabbir, the word dabara. Dabara is to if we say is to dabur, get to know. Here is administers. Yudabbiru. Yudabbiru. All right. Mentadbir is a Malay word actually from the same root word, dabara. Yudabbiru. He caused to arrange, to administer. He administers amra, the affair. The affair is being administered, and the affair is in nasab here. Ma min shafi'in. Ma is not, min is any, shafi'. Min is rojar, so shafi'. Shafi' is an intercessor. Illa min ba'di, except after him, from after him. Illa min ba'di, idnihi, his permission. Idhin is permission. He is his. Idnihi is permission. Dhalikumullah, that for you. Dhalika, dhaliki, you can have dhalika, you can have dhaliki, you can have dhalikum. So referring to kum, that, you can just say that actually, but just to explain that for you. Dhalikum Allah, Allah. Rabbukum, your Rabb. Fa'buduhu, then enslave to him. Fa is an then. A'bud is an instruction, enslave to him. Fa'budu. Yudabbirul amra ma min shafi'in illa min ba'di idnihi. Dhalikumullahu rabbukum fa'buduh. Afala tadhakkarun. Afala. Why then not? Dhikr is to remember. Ta, waw, noon, you all remember. Indeed, your master is Allah, who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and then established himself above the throne, arranging the matter. There is no intercessor except after his permission. That is Allah, your Rabb. So worship him, then will you not remember. So be a slave of him. Inna rabbakumullah, surely your Rabb is Allah. This is very important, stressing to the Arabs again and again, you have no other Rabb but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As you have mentioned, Allah is a God that the Arabs believe in, and he is the God that creates. So this is creating. Alladhi khalaqa as-samawati wal ard. He is the one who created the skies and the earth. Right? The skies in itself reminds us that we are not able to perceive everything, because we can only see the sky, the sama of the earth. The samawats represent 7 skies, which we don't know where, we don't know how, we can't have any understanding of it whatsoever, because it is beyond our perception. But he created the samawats and the earth fi sittati ayyam, in 6 days. Some translators actually would not want to, somehow they don't put it as 6 days, they put 6 aeons, like six regions. But honestly, with Allah, anything can happen. You can create the whole world in 6 days. There's nothing to be amazed. I mean, nothing. You should know that nothing is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here Allah turned to himself. Surely your Rabb, emphasize to all that Allah is our Rabb. Allah is your Rabb. Inna rabbakumullah. A second person used to create closeness. You have a Rabb, and your Rabb is Allah. This is what it is. This is what the message is all about. He created the skies and the earth in 6 days. Why? Because he is the one who created. He is your Rabb. Your Rabb is the creator, and he created the skies and the earth in 6 days. Ayyam, when Allah is creating the universe, there is no sun and moon. So what Allah thinks of it as day is not how we think of as day. So here again, the word ayyam, right, could be referred to as our day, could be referred to anything, but it's something which we are not able to understand, because as mentioned by the Mufassirin is that during that time there was no sun and moon. Allah created everything, then the day started. So how do we count days? Because we count days by the movement of the sun and the moon. So if that does not exist, has not existed yet, then what about days are we talking about? It's something else, something grander. It's just a word used to make us understand that there is structure in his creation, right? He doesn't create haphazardly, right? He has direction, but there is no need for him to have direction, but he puts in place direction. Had he really could have created them in an instant, but the reason for his not having done so is that he wanted to teach his creatures to be circumspect. In the creation, there's order, portion, planning, and it's done with great vigilance. So there's a lot of things to understand whenever you want to make to create something. But Allah can do it as mentioned once, right? But He makes it 6 days. 6 days, if we consider it as our days, is really, really a short, very, very short time to create the whole world. Allah can do anything. Nothing is impossible. Says it's kun fayakun, say, and it'll be. ثم استوى على العرش, then he established himself on the arash. Then again, we don't know what's the arash, right? There's a lot of differences of opinion. Again, the word istawa, and some people actually, even describe him as sitting on the throne, right? This is all beyond our capacity. We are not able to understand what this is all about, right? But basically, it is used terms that we are familiar with, right, to understand that he controls the whole of the universe and the whole of the universe. Then he presided upon the throne, a presiding befitting of him. We don't know what is it that, right? So it is only he who understands who knows what it's all about, and we are not of those who know. So we just believe, we just understand what he says, take it as it is, right, and tell us ourselves that we are not people. We are not. It is beyond our perception to understand the reality of him being istawa al arish, right? And the arish in itself, we don't know what is it and how is it, and this is beyond us. So he's just telling us that he is istawa al arish. The throne refers to power and omnipotence. So this Mufassirin is not going to come to terms with the fact that the Arash is a physical throne. The translation is a throne, but does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs a throne to sit on? So they are moving away from that understanding, right? But basically, Allah puts this word because we are familiar with this word. He can't use any other terms, right, which might explain further. But if the words used are not words which we are familiar with, then there is nothing to, there's no explanation there, because we don't understand. When one says someone was enthroned or overthrown, he implies that he was elevated in power or stripped of his power. So enthroned here, right, is not a physical throne, but he was elevated with power, right, and that is he is blessed with lots of power. Allah's comprehensive authority extends all over existence, both before the creation of the earth and the heavens, and after their creation. So that is Allah's authority. Allah knows everything and anything before and after He created the heavens and the earth. This also indicates a position of a firm overall authority exercised by a higher one. It gives a physical image in the inimitable style of the Quran. The then does not indicate any chronological order. So this is again another of the arguments of the Mufassirin as they put forth their explanations to us who are not proficient, right? And the way Allah described it is somehow it's so amazing, right? It shows it's physical images, right? But it is beyond our comprehension to actually put it into physical form. The then does not indicate any chronological order. It only indicates a mental dimension. Time has no significance in this context. All right, so he's saying that thumma, thumma. It's like a then, like people are saying, oh, at first Allah creates the skies, and then he creates the moon, and then he went up the throne. It's not, then, it's just a mental dimension, right? It does not, there's no significance in its contents. That means it is not this after that. It's not about chronological order. There is simply no state or form applicable to Allah which came into existence after it was not there, right? There is no such thing as Allah not being there. Allah is there all the while. Allah knows what He's doing. And these are all allegorical presentations of the creation of Allah's creation of the skies and the earth, and that He establishes Himself with power and might over those that He has created. Limitless is Allah in His glory. He is not subject to any event taking place. So we do not put timings and chronological orders for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yudabbirul amra, He administers the affair. He determines the beginning and the end, the shape and the form, the preliminaries and the conclusions, and chooses the laws that govern its stages and its final place. Allah has created the entire existence and is in full command, administering it with wisdom while leaving no one in charge of any part without His prior approval. He does give some angels some jobs to do, but it is all from His instruction. Tadbir, a long-term, detailed, meticulous calculation or Quran. So to dabbir Quran, that means or a plan. That means to study, to look at it, to ponder over it, right? That is called tadbir. So a long-term, detailed, meticulous calculation or plan. So Allah makes many decisions, but He calls all of the decisions as though it is just one decision for Him. Right, so it says, yudabbirul amra, the decision, the affair. There's only one affair, there's the affair. He manages the affair, everything without difficulty. Yudabbirul amra, the Quraysh thought that after creating the universe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left it to itself or to others to exploit it as they will. But the Quran refutes this. So they are trying to insist that Allah created the heavens and the earth, and then after that you can do whatever you want to do with it, right? Because that's the way life is, and they can do whatever they want to do. But the Quran refuses, no, Allah is the one who manages the affairs. Not only is He the creator, but also the ruler, designer, and supporter of the universe, which is working in accordance with His will. So it is, He manages the affairs of the whole universe, right? He is His supreme one, right, who manages everything. Ma min shafi'in illa min ba'di idnihi, not any intercessor, but after His permission. Now, we're talking about intercession, yes. Yes, the Arabs believe that their gods will intercede for them. Right? Of course, initial intercession is intercession in the world. In case any bad is to happen to them in their lives, their gods would intercede and not allow that bad to happen, and for the fact that most of their gods are supposedly angels who they declared as the daughters of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Which is of course nonsense. And that's what they believe, because they believe they are daughters, they have a good standing with their father, the father loves their daughters, and the father will accede to the request of the daughters. Ma min, Allah says, no, there's no such thing as an intercessor, except if Allah wishes it. This emphasizes the other side of the matter. He is all powerful, and there is none who dare make even a recommendation to Him without anything, not to speak of interfering with His management of affairs so as to cause any change in His decrees or in the making of or marring of anyone's fate. Right? So this is what it is. He's powerful. No one dares to recommend anything to Him or about anything, not to speak or about anything, recommend Him about anything, not to speak of interfering. That is out of the question, to interfere with His management of affairs. so as to cause any change in his decrees. That means as they believe that their gods can stop what is decreed, the gods can change what is going to be decreed, or in the making or marring of anyone's fate. So no one can make fate. The gods cannot do such things. Everything is with Allah subhanahu. The most one can do is to make a supplication to him, but it all depends on his will to grant or reject. There is none so powerful in this kingdom as to have his own way in anything or to get his recommendations through anyhow. So no one, right? None so powerful in this kingdom as to have his own way. That means they are saying that the gods can actually stop certain things from happening. The gods can stop a bad omen and things like that. The gods can give them lots of good, become rich and things like that. Intercession may be earned through firm belief and good deeds, not by appealing to false intercessors. To get intercession from Rasulullah SAW, we need to have firm belief and to do righteous deeds, not by appealing to false intercessors. This answers what the Arabs used to say about their angels, that status, the statues of them which they worship enjoyed an inalienable right of intercession. They are saying that when they worship the statues of the angels which they made themselves, right, then definitely they would be intercede. The angels will intercede for them in this world and in the next world. Allah will grant to his prophets on Judgment Day the permission to intercede for such of by virtue of the repentance or good, basic goodness. So Allah will allow prophets to intercede for their ummah. The right of intercession thus granted to the prophets will be but an expression of Allah's approval to the letter. So it is not a free flow of intercession. It is via the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Furthermore, the above denial of the possibility of unqualified intercession stresses indirectly not only Allah's omniscience, which requires no mediator, but also the immutability of his will, and thus it connects with the preceding mention of his mightiness. All right. So the above denial of the possibility of unqualified intercessions stresses indirectly not only of Allah's omniscience, that means he is all-knowing, right? He is encompassing in everything and is powerful in any all ways, which requires no mediator. No one can mediate with him. But also the immutability of his will. That means you cannot change what he wants to change to happen, and thus it connects the preceding mention of his almightiness. ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمْ فَاعْبُدُوهُ. That for you is Allah, your Rabb, then be a slave of him. After stating the bare fact that Allah alone is a Rabb, people are being told the kind of conduct that fact demands from them. That is, when Allah alone is your Rabb, you should worship him alone. You should take him as your Rabb. You are his slave. You are to obey him no matter what it takes. No matter what he says, you must believe that as your Rabb, he is doing it out of his mercies for you, and you should be grateful to your Rabb for that. That is Allah, your Rabb. So worship him or be a slave of him. Rabb implies three things: providence, supremacy, and sovereignty. Likewise, ibadah also contains three corresponding implications: worship, all right, worship, servitude, and obedience. So that is the meaning of ibadah. We worship Allah, we obey Allah, and we do things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Afala tadhakkarun. Why then not you start to think and recall? We need to pause a little to reflect on the statement that follows all the universal phenomenon pointing to Allah and his mastership. Dhalikumullahu rabbukum fa'buduhu. That for you is Allah, your Rabb, then be a slave of him. The disbelievers among the Arabs did not seriously deny the existence of Allah. They acknowledge that he is a creator who gives sustenance, initiates life, causes death, regulates all matters, and is able to do whatever he wills. So this is the belief of the Arabs, right? They acknowledge that He is a creator who gives sustenance. The rizq is from Allah. He is the one who gives life. He is the one who causes death, and He regulates all matters. He's able to do whatever He wants. So that's Allah. So if it's your Allah is that, then you should worship Him. You should be a slave of Him. This acknowledgement, though was not followed by its logical consequence of acknowledging His lordship over their lives. So although they acknowledge that He is God, the creator, He is the one who provides, He is the one who is caring and everything, right? Despite this acknowledgement, right, they did not consider Him as Lord in their lives. They would have been reflected by submitting to Him alone in all matters, addressing all worship rituals to Him, and accepting His rule in all their affairs. That is precisely the meaning of the statement, ذَلِكُمُ that for you is Allah, Rabbukum, your Rabb, fa'budu, then worship Him. Worship means submission, be a slave of Him, obedience, and acknowledging all these attributes as belonging to Allah alone. So Allah reminds us to be a slave of Allah, right, to worship Him and to obey Him in all instances. Thus, acquiring knowledge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should precede worshipping Him. We must have knowledge before you are able to worship Him. Worship must be kept exclusively for Him, who has the power to create and administer all the affairs of creation, and to no one else. In Jahiliyyah structure, the concept of Godhead is drastically narrowed down. People thought that by merely acknowledging the existence of God, they have attained to the faith, and that once people make that acknowledgement, they have then done all that is required of them. So that is what it is. Just to acknowledge Him as God and not as a Rabb. So they have your Rabb are these gods that they have around them. So this is what it implies, that we should leave everything to Allah subhanahu. I mean, we should do things only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was the belief of the Kafir Quraysh. They thus avoided the natural consequence of the acknowledgement, which requires submission to Allah alone, who is the overall sovereign and ruler, and against whom no one has any authority unless it comes from Him. Similarly, the meaning of worship is seriously curtailed in any Jahiliyyah society. It becomes synonymous with offering worship rituals. People then think that once they address these rituals to Allah, they are worshipping to Him alone. The fact is, ibadah signifies submission. So you don't understand this idea of acknowledging Allah as the Rabb, right? Because they think just by giving some offerings and whatever, right? They have done their job as worshipping Allah. We must, the word ibadah, to be a slave, means we must submit to whatever Allah wants us to do. Worship rituals are only one aspect of submission. Ilaihi, to Him, ilah is to, He is Him. Ilaihi marji'ukum, a place, your place of return. Your place, marji'u is place of return. Raja is to return. Ma is a place of your return. So your place of return. Place of your return, or your place of return. Jami'an, together. Wa'dallahi, promise of Allah. Wa'ad is promise Allah. He is promise of Allah. Haqqan, true. Innahu, surely He, yabda'u, He originates. And we saw the word bada'a just now. Yabda'u, He originates. Al-khalqa, the creation. The khalqa is creation. When there's an al, there's no tanwin. There cannot be a tanwin as an al. Al-khalqa. Thumma, then, yu'iduhu, He repeats it. A'ida means to repeat. Yu'iduhu, He repeats it. That means creation goes again and again and again. Ilaihi marji'ukum jami'an wa'adallahi haqqan. Innahu yabda'ul khalqa thumma yu'iduhu. Liyajziya, jaza is to reward, so that He rewards. Liyajziya alladhina, those amanu, who believed, wa amilu salihat, and they did righteousness, bil qisti, with justice. Walladhina, and those kafaru, they who disbelieved, lahum, for them, sharabum min hamim, a drink from boiling water. Hamim is boiling. Sharab is to drink, a drink. ليجزي الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات بالقسط والذين كفروا لهم شراب من حميم. وعذاب أليم, and a terrible punishment bima, because kanu, they were yakfurun, denying. To him you shall all return. Promise of Allah is true. He originates all his creation and then brings them all back to life so that he may reward with equity those who have believed and done good deeds. As for the disbelievers, they shall have a scalding drink and a grievous suffering for their disbelief. Ilahi marji'ukum jami'an, to him is your return, all of you. So this is a reminder of everybody that they will eventually return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You return to none of the partners or the intercessors you claim. He has promised that you will return to him, and his promise is certain to be fulfilled. For resurrection is the completion of creation. Wa'adallahi haqqan, the promise of Allah is true. This is an off structure here. So yeah, wa'da doesn't have any tanween. Allah, he is a kasrah. Wa'dallahi haqqan, haqqan is true. It's the second basic principle of the teachings of every prophet. You shall have to return to your Rabb. The first principle is Allah alone is your Rabb, therefore worship him alone, right? Ilahi marji'ukum, you're going to return to Allah. And his promise to you is true. That means you're going to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Innahu yabda'ul khalqa thumma yu'iduhu, surely he created, he originates the creation, then he brings them back. He caused them to return. Right? Yu'iduhu, some say multiply, some say return. So the differences of opinion there. This sentence contains both a statement and its proof. The statement is Allah will again bring to life all human beings. And the proof is this is as easy for Allah as it was to create them first. The one who acknowledges that Allah has originated all creation cannot consider this as impossible or irrational. Right? We know for sure that Allah is the one who originates all of his creation and then he brings them back. Right? That means they return to him. لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ بِالْقِسْطِ, and then he will give reward or recompense those who believe and did amal saleh with fairness and justice. Administering justice to all is in itself one of the aims of original creation and bringing all creatures back to life. Similarly, giving pure happiness and enjoyment without any unwelcome consequences to spoil its effects is another aim of the process of creation and resurrection. Similarly, giving pure happiness and enjoyment without any unwelcome consequences to spoil its effect is another aim of the process of creation and resurrection. That means the main aim of creation and resurrection is to give happiness and enjoyment, right? And not to have anything that spoils it. This is the utmost point of perfection which humanity can reach. Right? لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ بِالْقِسْطِ. Such a zenith cannot be attained in this life on earth, which is always mixed with worry and distress. No happy experience in this life is free of hiccup or an unwelcome aftermath, except perhaps for pure spiritual happiness, which is very rarely experienced by human beings. Right. So this statement is about happiness. Definitely we can be happy being Muslims here, but the true happiness is in the next. Right? Spiritual happiness. Had the inevitable termination of the happiness of this world been the only feeling people acknowledge, it would have been enough to make it imperfect and incomplete. Right? So if as people believe that when the world when you die, right, then that's it. Whatever you have enjoyed in it is finished, and then it means that there is something imperfect and incomplete about that creation. In this life, humanity does not attain its highest potential, which implies getting rid of its weaknesses, shortcomings, and their consequences, as well as an enjoyment that is free of fear, worry, and apprehension of quick termination. Right? In this life, humanity does not attain its highest potential, which implies getting rid of its weaknesses, shortcomings, and other consequences. Right? Human beings cannot be perfect in that sense. Right? They have weaknesses, they have shortcomings, and they do things which have consequences, as well as an enjoyment that is free of fear. We cannot enjoy without any fear, worry, and apprehension of quick termination. Such happiness, graphically described in the Quran, is attained in heaven. As such, it is only proper that one of the aims of the creation and resurrection is to enable those human beings who follow divine guidance, implementing the right code of living, to attain the highest standard of human being. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَهُمْ شَرَابٌ مِّنْ حَمِيمٍ وَعَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْفُرُونَ. وَالَّذِينَ, and those they disbelieve, for them especially, a drink of boiling water. Hamim is boiling water. وَعَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ, and a terrible punishment that is not enough as a punishment, some more punishment. Bima kanu yakfurun. Why? Because they were disbelieving. The disbelievers have put the divine code of living aside and have chosen not to move along the way that leads to the attainment of human perfection. Only in the next world then can we attain human perfection. According to the laws, but we strive in this world to get that great joy in the next world. According to the laws of nature that never fail, their deviation keeps them well short of what that level of perfection. So they will never reach perfection once they deviate from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Sheikh Rashid Rida says, that they will have to suffer the consequences of their errant ways, just like one who violates the rules of health. So if you don't eat properly, right, rules of health, as rules of health, so you will they will suffer the consequences of not doing things right, like basically. He suffers disease and debility, and they suffer distress after distress. Right? So that's human being, this is what it is. The end result will be mitigated misery, in contrast to the pure happiness the followers, the believers, enjoy. So they will get misery, punishment, boiling water and such, but the believers will be blessed with happiness in the next one. Who witnesses to Allah's power. Huwaladhi ja'ala shamsa diya'an. He is the one who made Shamsa, the sun, a shining light. Wal qamara, and the moon, nuran, a reflected light. Wa qaddarahu, and he assigned it, means he measures out. Qaddar is measures out. Manazila, phases, manazila, positions. Lita'lamu, so you know. هو الذي جعل الشمس ضياء والقمر نورا وقدره منازل لتعلموا عدد السنين, number of years. Right? Number of years. عدد السنين. That is counting of years. والحساب, and the calculation. Ma khalaqallahu, not Allah created, dhalika, that, illa, except bilhaq, with the truth. Yufassilul, he spells out al-ayat, the signs, liqawmi ya'lamun, for a people who know. Qawmi ya'lamun, for a people they know. Li is for, qawmin is for jar, so it is kasratain. Yufassilu, he spells up, he presents it in different ways, right? Adada sinina wal hisab ma khalaqallahu dhalika illa bil haqq. يفصل الآيات لقوم يعلمون. He is to make the sun a shining brightness and the moon a light, and ordained for it mentions that you might know the computation of years and the reckoning. Allah did not create it, but with truth He makes the signs manifest for a people who know. All right, so Allah reminds us He is the one who alladhi ja'ala shamsa. He places the sun with great light. Diya and is nasab put at the end to show it is light, right, from the sun. Reflection on Allah's might and ability. Ponder over the sun. It illuminates diya, light that has heat in it. The heat and light of the sun changes throughout the day with different positions in the various seasons. If the sun's heat increases or decreases slightly, the earth will burn or freeze. Life will terminate. وَالَّذِي جَعَلَ الشَّمْسَ ضِيَاءً. If the sun's heat increases or decreases slightly, the earth will burn or freeze. So if it gets a bit hotter, the earth will burn. If it gets a bit cooler, the earth will freeze. So Allah has fixed that distance, and that because of that distance, we have different amounts of heat coming in our life, which is necessary for life. وَالْقَمَرَ نُورًا, and the earth and the moon a light. And He made the moon a source of nur. Nur is light that has no heat in it. If the light of the sun was extinguished, you would no longer be able to see the moon, for it borrows its light from the sun. All right. The moon is an opaque object. It actually absorbs the light, and some of it reflects the light. So the reflection causes the moon to be seen, the light from the moon. It spreads its light at night time over the earth. Right. So that's the moon. Right. وَالْقَمَرَ نُورًا. So there's a light from the moon. وَقَدَّرُوا مَنَازِلَ. It stands every night in a position which gives it a corresponding shape. وَقَدَّرَ. Manazil is positions. And when we look at the moon, we can see the different shapes of the moon. Allah has measured out everything precisely for them. It's not easy managing the moon and the sun. This is seen by all of us when we look at the moon night after night. You don't need to have any specialized knowledge of astronomy to realize it. لِتَعْلَمُوا, so that you will know عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ, the counting of years and the resurrection. This is a hisab. Hisab could be just calculation, the counting of years and the calculation. The reason for these changes, why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow the moon to set at different times, right, to rise at different times? Allah knows best. Through observing the regularity of these changes, mankind can keep track of their days, months, and years, organize their work, and make plans with a schedule. It's important for us to know the days. It is an accurate natural calendar that can benefit both the sage and the illiterate for keeping track of the rhythm of their work in their daily lives. This privilege of the moon is besides the light that it gives us. Right, the moon, the shape of the moon, all tells us the days and the months. ما خلق الله ذلك إلا بالحق. Not Allah created. Allah created that except with the truth. This is no pastime, coincidence, or something false. Such an elaborate system providing such perfect harmony and accuracy which never fail could never be without purpose. Right? There's no coincidence here. He created all those with the truth. There is no lying about it. There is no exaggeration about it. Such an elaborate system providing such perfect harmony and accuracy which never fail could not be without purpose. Truth is its tool, substance, and objective. The truth is its tool, substance, and objective. So you must understand that whatever Allah create, right, is with the truth. Truth is constant and firmly rooted in these phenomena which point to the truth are also clear, constant, and permanent. ما خلق الله ذلك بالحق إلا بالحق, except not he created this except with the truth. So this is the truth of what he creates. يفصل الآيات لقوم يعلمون. He varies the ayahs for people so that they would know. Allah explains in various ways his ayahs. Only those with knowledge will appreciate such varied ways of looking at Allah's ayahs. Knowledge and learning are needed to understand the elaborate planning behind these magnificent scenes. Heavens, the earth, the blazing sun, and the illuminating moon combine to produce a succession of day and night. This is a telling phenomena which inspires anyone who opens his heart and mind the messages contained in the universe. So those who ponder over the universe, they learn lots of things from the skies also. But they're just the sama, the first sky. All right, I'm going to stop here. Allahumma arhamna bil Quran waj'alhu lana imaman wa nuran wa hudan wa rahmah. Allahumma zakkirna fima nasina wa 'allimna minhu ma jahilna warzuqna tilawatahu al-layli wa atrafan nahar waj'alhu lana hujjatan ya rabbal alamin. Allahumma astaudi'uka ma 'allamtani fardudhu ilayya waqta hajati ilayhi fala tunsinihi ya rabbal alamin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbana anfa'na bima 'allamtana. Rabbi yanfa'una. Rabbi faqihna wa faqih ahlana. قرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل الفطر أنثى وذكر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. الحمد لله. الحمد لله.